Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel, Line Shape Form. One of the biggest hurdles artists face is capturing the essence of anime style, while maintaining the proportions. Different styles can be quite confusing, and it's easy to get lost in the sea of varying head-to-body ratios and facial features. Then there's the issue of consistency. It can be frustrating when you're drawing the same character in various poses and their proportions keep shifting. In today's video, I'll show you how understanding the head-to-body ratio can help you accurately draw character proportions, whether for existing characters or your own creations, in realistic or stylized styles. Let's get started. For this demonstration, I've used animator and character designer Naohiro Shintani's model sheet of Goku as a reference, and prepared a traced image of Goku's full body from the front view. When drawing human figures, a popular technique is to use the head as a unit of measurement. For realistic adult characters, the commonly used ratio is between 1 to 7 and 1 to 8. This means that the total height of the body, from head to heel, is approximately 7 to 8 times the height of the head. With stylized characters, the head-to-body ratio can differ greatly from style to style and character to character. It's quick and easy to measure the head-to-body ratio, which can help immensely in terms of consistency when you want to draw the same character again and again. Not only does it help when drawing the full body, but also when drawing close-ups. So our first step is to determine Goku's head-to-body ratio. Now you don't have to do this, but for this demonstration, I tried to guess what Goku might look like without the uniform, to give us a better understanding of his body shape. When using the head as a unit of measurement, you can either measure from the chin to the top of the head with or without the hair. In this case, I excluded the volume of hair on top from the measurement. Now, all you need to do is see how many times the head fits into the body. This provides you with valuable insights. For instance, if you measure about 1/5 of the head's length down from the chin, you'll find the collarbones and shoulders. Approximately 2/3 of a head below the chin, we have the bottom of the chest, and the nipples are about half a head below the chin. You'll find the knees a little more than 3 heads below the chin, and the length from the head to the crotch is roughly equal to the length of the legs. You don't need to measure everything precisely, just get a rough idea of where the landmarks are. As you start drawing the figure, you'll begin to identify which landmarks are truly important. Next, we'll break down the body into simple shapes and forms while paying attention to the relationship between body parts. Let's draw the full body using simple shapes and forms, and I'll highlight a few more key points along the way. We now know that Goku has a 6 head-to-body ratio. You can start by marking the total height of the figure first. This way, your figure will have the exact size you want it to be. First, find the midpoint, then divide both the upper and lower halves into thirds. I covered Goku's head proportions in another video, so I won't discuss it here. That said, you can use both the height and width of his head as reference points to determine how long or wide other body parts are in comparison. When drawing traditionally, you can easily use your pencil for this purpose. For instance, you can compare the width or height of the head to the width of the shoulders. This will help you determine how wide to draw them in relation to the head. You can do this quickly whenever you need to. To draw the chest area, let's compare the width of the waistline to the width of the head. The ribcage would likely be around this size. In my opinion, you don't need to be overly technical or rigid with these measurements, but they can definitely help you achieve consistency. There are times when you can exaggerate or bend the rules, but there are also moments when sticking to accurate measurements is the best approach. So, being aware of these key points can be really beneficial. You can draw circles or spheres for the base of the arms, or use shapes like these to represent the deltoid muscles. You have the unit divisions as guidelines for locating the elbows and wrists. However, if you want to draw the arms in a different position that doesn't involve foreshortening, you can use the height of the head to compare it to the length of the upper arm or forearm. It's good to remember that generally, the elbows are located around the bottom of the ribcage. It's always helpful to know the size of the hands, as they vary by style. Comparing the length of the palm to the height of the head, we can see it's about 2/7 of the head's height. And since the middle finger often equals the palm's length, I'd assume the total length of the hand from wrist to fingertip is approximately 4/7 of the head's height. When comparing this to the Loomis construction lines, this length corresponds to the distance from the chin to the eyebrow. The thighs are slightly longer than the head, and as mentioned earlier, the legs are about 3 heads long. The lower legs are also a bit longer than 1 head. As is the case with most things, if something doesn't have a solid foundation, it will eventually fall apart. This is also true for drawings. By constructing a solid foundation first, with simple shapes and forms before adding details, you will benefit in many ways. As you can imagine, using simple forms like these makes it much easier to experiment freely with the positions of body parts when drawing different poses from your imagination. Let's take a quick look at the location of Goku's obi, which is his belt. We can see that it is positioned about 1 head's length down from his collarbone. Now that we have a clearer understanding of his proportions, let's try drawing him from a different angle. With that, the final step is to start practicing. I'll be using this manga panel as a reference. However, as you can see, there are slight differences between the manga and anime versions. For instance, this manga version has slightly bigger arms and hands. So, for this demonstration, I will adjust my drawing to match the proportions of the anime version. First, I set the height of the entire figure. Then I lay down the flow of the body. I look for the midpoint, which is also approximately where the crotch will be. I divide the upper and lower halves into thirds. I establish the perspective by drawing perspective lines at the collarbones and the feet. And now I can construct the body using simple shapes and forms. Just in case you're wondering, in situations like this, I sometimes prefer to draw the body first before drawing the head. I want the vertical center line of the body to align with the vertical guideline I drew here, simply because I don't want it to look confusing to the viewer. Since the head will be bent down slightly, the vertical center line for the head will be at an angle. This means that if I draw the angled head and then the throat first, the base of the throat may not align with the center line of the body. I would then have to position the body slightly more to the left or the right and rearrange the center line accordingly. Once you have practiced with enough reference images and feel confident, you can try drawing poses from imagination or recreate the poses you have practiced before without reference. You might want to keep the poses simple at the beginning and gradually increase the level of difficulty. If a character like this is still too challenging for you, consider starting with characters that have simpler designs and a head-to-body ratio of 3 or 4. Characters with those ratios often have simpler body shapes and may be easier to draw. When you're drawing, it's easy to get caught up in the details and lose sight of the bigger picture. However, by stepping back and focusing on those fundamental proportions, you can create characters that are both stylized and balanced. Right now, I'm focusing on getting the overall proportions right. The 6-head grid we created earlier for the front view, along with the grid I made for this drawing, is helping me with that. I'm also paying attention to the relationships between different body parts to keep everything in balance. Using simple forms allows you to do just that. And if something needs adjustments, it's much easier to make those changes before adding all the details. You want your foundation to be solid before refining your sketch. Because of the angle, I will exaggerate the size of the right arm and hand just a little to make it look more powerful. But I will keep it slimmer than the manga version and more in line with the anime version. As mentioned earlier, once you understand these measurements and how different body parts relate to each other in size and position, it will also assist you when drawing close-ups. For example, if you want to draw a close-up from the head to the chest, it's easy to misjudge proportions when you can't see the rest of the body. Once you take the time to understand these proportions, you'll have clues to guide you, making it easier to estimate how wide the shoulders should be, or where the bottom of the chest should be, for instance. You can, of course, do this with your own characters as well. Draw your character in full body from the front view, and then see how many times the height of the head fits into the body. With my basic shapes in place, I can begin adding the finer details. To wrap up, mastering anime proportions is all about understanding the basic proportions specific to that style and practicing with that knowledge in mind. By utilizing reference grids, basic shapes, and focusing on the relationships between body parts, you can create characters that are both stylized and well-proportioned. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up or a comment. To stay updated on future uploads, please consider subscribing and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching.